Welcome to Duke Devil 95. My name is Brad Burnett, and today I'm talking about the 7th episode of Season 3 of Star Trek Picard. This episode is titled Dominion, and we start off with the USS Titan hiding in the Chintaka sector. We see on the bridge that 7 of 9 is talking with her former Voyager crewmate Tuvok, who's now a captain. Uh, she is trying to make contact to see if he's reliable, has been influenced at all by the Changelings. And to do so, she asks him a series of questions, calling back to their past together on the USS Voyager, including playing games of Calto together. It seems as though Tuvok is answering everything correctly, uh, and Seven is about ready to agree when she says we should meet on a certain planet, and it's a planet where no Vulcan would ever agree to meet on, yet Tuvok does, which means this is not Tuvok. It is in fact a changeling masquerading as Tuvok. The changeling Tuvok explains that Tuvok is not dead, he's still alive for as long as he is valuable. Picard appears and asks, where is Captain Riker? The changeling Tuvok then transforms into a version of Riker who looks half dead. And the changeling Riker simply tells Picard Riker is as good as dead as they are. In the conference room, Geordi tells Picard they can't keep hiding. They can't keep trying to hide their transmissions from Starfleet. Picard, Crusher, and Geordi eventually figure out that the reason the changelings took Picard's body and are trying to get Jack is to use both of them together, Picard's body and Jack's blood, to create a perfect doppelganger to infiltrate Frontier Day and execute whatever plan they have. Down in engineering, Geordi and Alondra have been working together to try to resolve the personality conflict that's going on in Data, the conflict between Data and Lore. Geordi explains that Lore and Data are fighting for dominance. The other personalities are just there for memory and for storage. The personalities are most dominant are Data and Lore. And throughout the whole conversation, Lore continues to peak out. Data is unable to maintain any control. Lore just insults Picard and Geordi with cruel comments. Picard finally suggests, could we just free Data by deleting Lore? But Geordi's concerned about it because he's afraid the process may delete Data as well. Meanwhile, on the Shrike, Vadic has not been able to break her Federation prisoners. Specifically, that means Captain Riker and Deanna Troi. They're resistant to any of the interrogation methods to find out what they may know. Vadic then communicates with her superior, the disembodied head that floats there, and demands that Vadic capture Jack on their planned timetable so that their ultimate plan can succeed. And the floating face reminds Vadic that she is just an expendable piece of material, of flesh that can be gotten rid of if she does not succeed in her mission. Back on the Titan, we see Jack and Sydney riding in a turbo lift together. Jack tries to flirt with her, talking about how he's got this new quarters on the Titan, and she can stop by and visit. She's a little awkward about it, and then Jack suddenly notices he's able to hear Sydney's thoughts because she's wondering, is he trying to flirt with me? This is kind of forward. What is he doing? And Jack makes a move to touch her hand based on a suggestion that Sydney was thinking. Sydney looks awkwardly at him, walks off the turbolift, and then Jack has the red eyes appear again, and he sees the red door at the end of the hallway. On the bridge of the Titan, the crew discovers that they've received a transmission from what appears to be a Starfleet captain, but it has the signature of the Shrike. So they rationalize that Vadic has Riker. At that point, Jack comes on the bridge, and he asks to speak with Picard. He tells Picard that he feels guilty about everything, how Riker stuck his neck out for him, and now Riker's captured by Vadic and will most likely die. Jack is hating the fact that all these people are willing to die for him, and he doesn't feel worthy about any of this. He also admits to Picard that he can hear things, hear thoughts, but Picard seems to think it's just a side effect of the Irmatic syndrome and moves past it. Picard tries to assure Jack that he is worth it, that people are protecting him because he's worth it. And then Picard comes up with an idea that he hopes will turn the tables on Vadic and trap her. Next, we see the Shrike warp in next to the Titan. Vadic has tracked down the Titan. She's found some communications which indicate the Titan was attacked and disabled in combat. The Titan does appear to be out of power due to the battle. Vadic is cautious and takes a shuttlecraft over to the ship. When Vadic and her changeling henchmen board the ship, they run straight into Jack Crusher, who engages in some taunting, which leads them to chasing Jack throughout the ship, which is part of the trap that Picard has set. After pursuing Jack and Sydney, who joins in as well throughout the quarters, the changelings get caught behind a series of force fields that the bridge throws down to trap them. Vadic herself becomes trapped in sickbay. But at the same time, Jack and Sydney get trapped behind the force fields as well, with changelings sitting outside the force fields ready to attack them. Geordi tries to beam Jack and Sydney out, but he's unable to. He's stopped. The transporter's not working. Why? Turns out that Lore, who's been connected to the Titan this whole time, has taken control of the Titan systems. With Vadic in custody, Picard and Beverly confront her about what they think the Changelings' plan is, what they're going to do with Picard's body and Jack's blood. Vadic does not deny this, but at the same time she hints that Jack has another purpose. She then reveals the reasons why the Changelings are planning to destroy Starfleet. Back during the Dominion War, Starfleet, specifically Section 31, developed a virus to infect and kill the Changelings, a form of genocide. At the same time, Starfleet developed a cure for that virus, but Starfleet didn't give it to the Changelings. It was in fact a Changeling, specifically Odo, with the help of Dr. Bashir and Chief O'Brien, who delivered the cure after it was obtained from Section 31. So while the Great Link was cured, she and her fellow Changelings, who she calls her family, were not. Why? Because they were prisoners of Section 31 on Daystrom Station. And during that time, Starfleet scientists were experimenting on them, trying to turn them into perfect, undetectable spies. She recounts the torture that went on, the way that her experimenters went ruthlessly to develop this, and at the same time changed them in the process, made them what they are now, that they could be virtually undetectable by able to mimic solids better than ever before. Eventually, Vadic is able to escape and kills the scientist who is experimenting on her, freeing her comrades. In doing so, she adopts the face of her torturer, and as Picard says, to remind herself of the pain she endured. After hearing Vadic recount her story of torture, Picard and Beverly find themselves at a moral conundrum. They need to know what they're going to do with Vadic. They're not certain. They know that she is dangerous, and they know that bringing her on the ship was not a good idea. Picard asks if they've both been so fundamentally changed by everything that has gone on that they are willing to compromise their own morals. And Beverly says that she is. And at that point, Lore, who's in control of the ships, has been bantering back and forth with Geordi, tells him it's time to level the playing fields. The Changelings just want to survive, as do I. And he drops the force fields that have been holding back the Changelings. That lets Vadic escape, and also at the same time, that drops the force fields that are keeping Jack and Sydney separated from the Changelings. So now Jack and Sydney are facing the Changelings, and a barrier comes up separating Jack and Sydney. Jack himself is able to fight off and kill the Changeling that has been attacking him, but Sydney is significantly overmatched. The giant Changeling just grabs her and throws her against the force field, slamming her, asking Jack how he'll feel when she's dead. And at that point, Jack's eyes glow red again, and he finds himself able to control her body. He speaks to her through his mind and starts basically Pacific Rim style Jaegering her through a fight with the Changeling, where she's ultimately able to defeat and kill the Changeling. Down in engineering, Geordi is continuing to try to reach Data through Lore. He's telling Data how much his death affected him. He explains that it broke him, losing his best friend. He tells Data that just his friendship made him a better person and a better father, and he needs him to be Data again. Ultimately, Data is able to break free of Lore's dominance, but it's too late at this point. The Changelings have started moving through the ship. Shaw attempts to stop them at one point, but is quickly overtaken. The Changelings then storm onto the bridge. the turbo lift opens and Shaw is thrown onto the deck. A changeling comes out, points a phaser at 7 of 9's head, and the Titan has been taken. Vadic goes over to the captain's chair and informs the crew that she is now the new captain of the USS Titan. And as the episode ends, she says, it's time for Jack Crusher to learn who he really is. So I'm not certain really what it was, but this episode was a little bit off for me. I don't know if it was the pacing. I don't know if it was the amount of exposition. It just didn't flow well. I actually watched it twice, and I liked it better the second viewing than the first, but it still just feels like the weakest episode so far. It's not that it's bad. It's just inconsistent with what we've seen before. I've heard some people mention that, the seventh and eighth episode are better to watch together. Maybe it ties together better. Of course, we won't know till next week. But it wasn't as good for me. We did learn some things, still. But there are some things in it that I just don't like, as always. I'm really getting tired of Section 31. It's being way overused now. I mean, we can't have a Star Trek story now without Section 31 being involved. Yeah, I understand when it first happened in DS9, and I think it was still limited at the time, but then they showed up on Enterprise, and then they just showed up apparently way too much in Discovery, and there may still be a Section 31 TV show in the works. I'm not saying that there aren't dark operations, but it doesn't fit so much in Roddenberry's vision. It's taking away from the true Roddenberry style, I think, of what Star Trek is. The other thing that I'm not liking is Jack Crusher, and this isn't a fault to the actor. I think he's doing a good job, and I've liked him more, but it's the overall mystery of Jack Crusher that is being drawn out way too much now. We now hopefully will get an explanation in the 8th episode of what's going on with him, because as far as I can tell right now, he isn't the son of Jean-Luc Picard. He's the son of Charles Xavier, the other Patrick Stewart character. He's a mutant. He's telepathic. He's telekinetic. I don't know what's going on. I feel like it's going to connect somehow with Locutus and the Borg. I hope it doesn't. Again, another thing that's been done to death. The Borg are good in small doses. Same thing as Section 31. But this mystery box has gone on way too long. They need to put something together on it and just move on. Beyond that, I still like, there's always the stuff that I like, the callbacks to the old stuff. The Titan hiding in the Chintaka sector. Well, that's a blatant DS9 callback to the Dominion War. There are a number of battles there. I think it was first and second battle of Chintaka, and it's where the USS Defiant was destroyed. Tuvok. It wasn't the real Tuvok. Okay. But it was nice to see Tim Russ come back and put the ears on. Just have a little bit of Tuvok again. Even though it wasn't the real Tuvok, for a bit it kind of was. The other thing I found interesting, I don't know if it's so much neat as interesting, was the conversation between Picard and Beverly about abandoning the morality. I don't think it's neat. It struck me as interesting. And I really can't put a reason why on it. I thought it was kind of well done that they've sort of reached the rope's end and they're like, we just want this over. Maybe that, goes into what I think generally is, decent performances. And I kind of like that interaction. Where they trying to play good cop, bad cop, and Vadic calls them out on it before they even get started, which then ties into Amanda Plummer. And I said before that she seemed to be channeling a lot of her father's performance as General Chang, as being an over-the-top bad guy. She's manic, but now we see a little bit of the reason why she's manic, what her insanity, brokenness comes from. She's a victim of torture, apparently. And that's just informing all of her goals, her mission, and the weird and idiosyncratic behavior she has, like the whistling, which apparently is mimicking what her torturer, the Starfleet scientist who was experimenting on her, was doing. Also, like Picard said, she took the face of her torturer. So some interesting stuff going on there with the character. Again, she's not the big bad. She's not the big bad. She's probably ultimately just going to end up being the strong henchman. But she's giving an interesting performance, and it's keeping me engaged. Another really good performance. I really like the way LeVar Burton played Geordi when he's desperate to help rescue Sydney, and he's just pouring his heart out to Data to try to get Data to break through the lore barrier. I mean, we all knew that Geordi and Data were best friends. The people probably tried to ship them or something back in the day, but look, they're just two best friends. You could tell that from the beginning of the show, the way they hung out and everything. And we never really got to have a resolution for Geordi. We knew that, Picard is so upset about losing Data apparently in season 1 and 2, but this is Geordi's best friend. And that really was not addressed. And we get to see LeVar Burton explain really with passion and with feeling, just like, this hurt me. This hurt Geordi. This is his best friend. He learned to be a better person because of Data's friendship. Data, who did not have true humanity, imparted more humanity onto Geordi. And that's what he's trying to explain. And that's what he's trying to get through. And he just really does a good job, I think. Lastly, of course, Brent Spiner. Look, Brent Spiner's always done a great job as Data. But what he does is lore is just so interesting. The anti-Data. And this time he's, Sydney asks, has lore always been this arch? And honestly, he hasn't. Lore was a bad guy. Geordi called him, like, he loves chaos. Got a Loki-esque quality to him, I guess. But really, this time he's really playing a sense of revenge. And think about where Lore was. He knows he's been deactivated for decades. He's never allowed to come out and play, so to speak. He's always a lesser brother. When he, back in the episode Brothers, when he and Data met Noonien Sung, and he got the emotion chip, and he was just so upset that Data was chosen over Lore. And Noonien Sung, tried to explain, no, I loved you both, but I didn't have time to fix you both. And Lore just acted out of rage, just a child who could not control his temper. Now Lore, he still has that rage and anger, but he seems to be much more methodical and much more conniving. And it's really good the way Brent Spiner switches between Lore and Data, where Data's looking like, I need help, please help me, and I want to help you, but I can't. I really like the performance, and it's one of the things that I liked in this episode. So like I say, overall, it was not the best episode of the series for me. Still good, better than any other new Trek I've seen, limited as it may be, thankfully. But, hopefully we'll see where we are with episode 8, get some questions answered finally. Until next time, questions, comments, witticisms down below. Click like, click subscribe, click share, and I'll see you later.